I may be sick, but this paper is not. A reasonable paper is what you need just before your prelims. Find out why in today's episode of PPR.
Alright, welcome back to another video. This is your love from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest, and for today's Prelim Paper review, it is for the H2 Math students. It is a paper from 2018 Innova Junior College, H2 Math Paper 2. Now before I go into the details, these are the questions that I feel are slightly more insightful and worth your time to try. And for students who like to try this paper, feel free to join my Telegram channel where you can find my blog link and download the paper. Have a go at it, let me know how you did. No doubt, this paper is before the change of syllabus, but all these questions are going to be relevant and potentially insightful for a lot of you. Why? Let's find out via my 3 matrices. Number 1, relevance. Number 2, insightfulness. Number 3, difficulty, before I give an overall score and recommend to you the type of students who should try this paper. And of course, if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam condition, what would be a fair expectation of him from me in order for him to score an A in his actual A levels. Firstly, relevance. It has to be said, whenever we examine a paper 2, generally it's being split into your pure math and your stats component. And in the pure math component, for a lot of the tutors, we generally observe that there is a trend where vectors 1 coupled with first part of complex number or the second part of complex number in your paper 2. Usually this is how they split up, but you do not see that in this paper. But apart from that, the rest of the paper, the questions are more or less what you expect, are more or less what you have seen before in your tutorials. You have seen it before and your teachers probably have told you about the booby traps before. So relevance, in short, nothing too special, and hence you'll be given a very fair score of 6 out of 10. As for insightfulness, there are a couple of questions here that really caught my eye. Most of the insightful questions are actually from your pure math section, where the questions generally have a major twist to them and they look somewhat alien to you. But then for most of the stats paper is what you kind of expect to see. What I mean by that is the booby traps in there or the extension of the question in there are things that you have been taught before. You are expected to know how to solve this if you have listened attentively in class. And I like how they do not push the students over the edge. And I guess if you compare the stats component to your pure math component, the stats component seems a lot less insightful compared to your pure math. A lot of the questions in stats is what I want my students to be tested on, but not so much for the pure math part. And I guess everything balances up eventually then. And hence, if I had to balance the two, I would still have to give a very solid score for the insightfulness. You'll be given a score of 7 out of 10. As for the difficulty, I think a lot of students will feel intimidated by the length of it. What I meant is that the length of the paper does look long. There's a lot of information to process, and I guess the saving grace is when they started the stats component, it started really short, but it got longer and longer when it got to hypothesis testing and normal distribution. But they are all digestible. They are still manageable. I think for most students, they will struggle to get past the pure math section, but when they get to their stats, upon first look, somewhat familiar, they see the small traps, they see the things that their teachers have told them about many times in their tutorials and whatnot. And that's when they start to build back their confidence. As I always say, time management is never an issue in your H2 math, and this paper is no different. I would expect most students to complete the paper well ahead of time with a very respectable score. And hence, the difficulty of this paper will be given a somewhat fair score, 6 out of 10. Overall, I like this paper because this paper has tested many elements that I want my students to be tested on. But what threw me off a bit is mainly from the pure math part. Some of it really seems overzealous. But at the same time, I know a lot of students will place more priority on their pure math, and therefore schools would set papers that tends to match that ambition by setting papers that are a bit more insightful for the pure math component. And usually for stats, if you have done your 10-year series, you find that most of the time it's very run-of-the-mill, it's very routine. Any sort of insightfulness, any sort of stretching in the stats component may come across as frivolous. But this paper did not just simply forgo the stats part, they did put in some effort, and at the same time the pure math component is going to match the student's ambition. And hence, I do like this paper. The overall score of this paper will be given a higher than average 7 out of 10. And if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam condition, a fair expectation of him from me would be 75% in order for him to score an A in its actual A-levels. And finally, who would I recommend this paper to? I recommend this paper to every student out there looking to prepare for your prelims. Now, I know this paper may not be the most balanced in terms of the two components, your pure math and your stats, but I see a lot of value in doing this paper as a fair challenge to all of you, especially for students who are looking to me to review papers that have good stats questions without going too crazy about it. And this paper has offered that with a bit more spiciness towards the pure math component. Not the most relevant in terms of what we usually see and what we want to see in a paper 2 in terms of topics that are to be included, but at the same time, I feel this is still a very appropriate paper to try as a time practice. And hence, if you are a student who's looking to prepare for your Prelim Paper 2 in your H2 Math, this paper would be for you. Alright, so we have come to the end of this Prelim Paper review of 2018 Innova Junior College H2 Math Paper 2. Now, if you like what I'm doing, follow me on TikTok, like my video, comment, and share it with your friends. I'm sure this will help them, because ultimately, I'm on my way to 10,000 followers. And for the students who like to try this paper, you are invited to join my Telegram channel, where you can find my blog link, download the paper, have a go at it, let me know how you did. Nothing else. This is your love from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest. Take care.